So, at the beginning and the end of each nursing shift, there's something called a report. Now, due to nursing being 24 hours, basically, you have to report on or report off. When a nurse leaves, when a nurse comes on, you have we used to do about a 30-minute time frame of just reporting, where you'd actually have two nurses on the unit scheduled at the same time. It would kind of overlap each other. At the hospital, it was like 12 and a half hours, roughly, each shift. That way you had about 15 minutes overlap, so 30 minutes total day. In any case, when you get report, you need to make sure you ask questions. Ask the right questions. When you give report, make sure you're thorough, and also leave room for explanation also. So say I'm coming on the shift, just for simplicity reasons, we'll say I've got one patient. I got one patient. I want to know, do they have an IV? Where is the IV? What's running in the IV? If they have controlled meds, when were they given? If they are ambulatory or not. Do they have other comorbidities? If they're there for diabetes, then I already know they have diabetes, so I know I'm going to have to check blood sugar. If they're not there for diabetes, are they a diabetic? If they're there for, say they had a fall, is there anything else that I need to know about other than this person having a fall? Do they have any other disease process that I need to know about? You can have a hip transplant, or not hip transplant, a hip replacement come in, and the nurse leaving not report off to you that the hip replacement just happens to have, say, sickle cell anemia. Well, that would have been great to know beforehand. You have to ask, okay, the patient is here for a hip replacement. Is there anything else pertinent to this patient that I need to know about? Do they have any other comorbidities? Is there anything else that could hinder my nursing of this patient? So, IVs, what's running, where are they at? How long they been there? I forgot about that. How long's that IV been in there? Am I going to have to change that IV out? Am I going to have to redress that IV? IVs, you can go on 5-10 minutes about one IV on one patient. If that IV's got more than one thing running through it, what's running through it? Are these things compatible? Have these, what are these things ordered to run at? Are they running at that? So on and so forth. Know your IVs. Know your IVs. Know what's running, why it's running, when it's running, how long it's been running, where it's running, what size is it? All these things. Now, what I like to do when I did IVs a lot, I would label the actual cord, the actual line from the bag to wherever it went into, to the port, whichever port it went into. I made sure that it was labeled. This is vancomycin. Just for reference. This is vancomycin. I ran it. I'll write my name at noon today. Noon and date. Well, it's at 1200 or 0000 for midnight. But all my IVs were labeled. If I missed something in report, you could go behind me and you can be like, oh, well, Chris forgot to tell me he had vancomycin running, but it looks like he started running it at about noon today. So that's good. Now, if I charted correctly, you would be able to tell that by the chart also. But sometimes things get missed. So, know your IVs. Know your comorbidities. Know your primary reason why that person's there. Know controlled narcs. You don't want to go in, say, 2 hours after somebody's got a controlled narc and be like, oh, well, here's a controlled narc. Because sometimes, now this doesn't happen often, but if you have to check something out, you can check it out. Let's say you check it out at 6 a.m. but you give it at 8 a.m., well, the person behind you says, oh, well, looks like they gave it at 6 a.m., so I can give it at 10 a.m. No. Be sure to get in report your narcs. Always get your narcs, and always get your IVs as well. Those are two things if I knew who was giving report, I would always make sure to tell them or get them to tell me. You don't want to miss things like that. Ambulatory status, are they ambulatory? Do they need assistance? Do they need an assisted device? Or am I going to roll them over every 2 hours? Things like that. Always get as much detail as possible. Sometimes I might have been a little bit too thorough in report, but I always wanted myself to be safe, and I wanted my patient to be safe. So I would always, maybe I'd take a little bit too long in report. I know some nurses were aggravated when they got a report from me, or knew they were reporting off to me. They would get upset. Another thing, there's bedside reporting or nurse station reporting. I really didn't care. It didn't really matter to me. Bedside reporting, the patient actually puts eyes on both nurses for a minute or two, and then the nurses step out and give report, or they may give report in that room. I really didn't care. I wanted all the information. Now, one benefit to bedside reporting is if I saw you did have an IV and I wasn't told in report you have an IV, that would be about the only real reason that I would be in the bedside as opposed to at the nurse station. I really didn't care. I did not mind doing nurse station reporting. You could find a central location that was quiet, and you typically weren't interrupted by people. And I didn't mind that at all. Every now and then, the nurse reporting off to me or me reporting off to the other nurse would say, hey, listen, you have to see this. Say it's a wound, say it's a vac, some sort of device that you need to show the new nurse how to use. You say, hey, listen, I have to show you this wound. He's got a vac hook up to it. I have to show you this portacath. I've accessed this portacath, and I would like for you to put eyes on this portacath. Let me show you that this PICC line, one side flushes, one side doesn't. Let me show you what does what. So, reporting, always be thorough. I always was probably too thorough. I take a lot of notes, and I write on a lot of paper. Like I said, I always made a master list of my med passes, but I also had one for each patient in report. I always had another one for report. That way I could flip back and say, oh, well, looks like you have a wound to your left foot, or, whatever it may be. But always get all your information that you can get. I hope it helps. Thank you much.